So I'm going to spend some time trying to figure out what is the issue. I already know where the problem is coming from, but I don't know how to solve it. And it's kind of an annoying problem to solve, I think. Because it's basically coming from, I comment out some parts of the code on the FileSystemDock to see how it will look like. And I'm gonna do this again now, just to make sure. That's because there was a weird thing once I uncommented out that the folder was collapsed in the beginning. But I think the problem is coming from the create tree function, because the create tree function is the one that uh, initializes the items in the beginning. So it's both coming from this part here because it's not recursing, I think. So I comment this one out and the other one here. So the other thing I figure out, not that I figure out, but I think I don't need, is the rest of this stuff here. Mainly this part here, I think I don't need. Because what actually creates, maybe I don't even need the rest of these things here. Because what actually creates the file icon is this function here. So it creates based on the other class, I think. Initializes here, and then it recurses, and then it's going to create there. So this one creates the subfolders, and then as it continues after backtracking, is going to create the file icons for the same level. So I think I might not need to have the other one because it creates the files here. So maybe I can do everything on one loop. But for whatever reason, it's not creating on mine there. And I think the reason why is probably because the way that I'm initializing the class. So I'm going to look into the editor nodes, and I'm going to probably go over the debugger and things like that to see if I can figure out. But I think it's the order that I'm initializing things is different because the way that they design is the class is going to be a singleton, and they initialize the class outside of the FileSystemDock. So they are both singletons, the FileSystemDock and the editor file system. The editor file system is the class that manages the logic. So it has I think the main purpose of the editor file system is to scan the directory. So it has functions that are gonna go over are gonna recurse through the directory, and they're gonna find the directory base. In the way that they design is always gonna be based on the RAS path, which is the special keyword that they use to determine the root of the project directory. So they start off with the RAS, and then based on the RAS, they use functions from other classes that are going to get that path. They're going to use their access, which is another class that has functions to deal with the directories and files. And then based on that, they're going to traverse, and they're going to update the state of the other class, which is the editor file system directory class, which is the one that has the state for each subfolder. Each directory is going to be an editor file system directory class. So both these classes they loop over the directory and check to see if there's any changes, and then they update their state to reflect the state of the directory. And then based on that, it's going to traverse. This function here is going to recurse based off the other ones, and is going to create the tree. The tree class is the main class that's used to create the visualization. So it uses uses the tree for both subfolders and files. The only difference is the data that is used to create, which is basically the icon and the names. That's going to be the difference between the folders and files. As far as I understand right now, so in the beginning here it creates the folder. The first one that it creates is the folder, and then it recurses, and then it reaches the end of it reaches the base case, I think, which is probably going to be the count here. And then after that, it's going to backtrack, and then it's going to continue to run. So for each level, it's going to get the files after it got the folders. and it gets the files by just creating calling this function, and this is gonna make the item as a child of this one. So this one would be the folder of the current level, and this one is the files that it got from this class, which is the editor file system directory class, which is the class that manages the state for each directory. So based on this one, which I think is gonna depend on the level of the stack, because it's on the function here. So each time that it calls the function recursively, I think that, but maybe not. I don't know for sure, because it's not creating anything here. Like it's not creating a new editor file system. So I'm not 100% sure how it works, the relationship between. I guess it already, like, once it gets to the point, it already has to have all the directories based on this. And the way it is going to initialize the directory, which is the part that I think is the problem, is it's going to call a function called scan. And I'm not 100% sure where it calls the function for the first time, but I realized that it calls here on the editor node as well. And it seems to be, based on the way that I'm stepping over, it seems to be the first time that it actually scans. So it runs the functionalities, the tree, builds the tree several different times before it even scans, but it doesn't call the thing recursively. It only starts calling recursively after it calls a scan, because a scan is gonna start the thread, and then this function here, which is a start on a thread, is gonna call this scan file system, and that's the first function that is gonna traverse the directory and get the update the state of the create all the for each subdirectory is going to create a new editor file system directory class, and it's going to get all the folders and files for that level. I haven't spent too much time. There's going to be this function here probably. I haven't spent too much time going over the nuances. You're probably going to do it now as well to solve. But it is kind of annoying because I already put a bunch of different spots scan on my version of the class there, but it seems that it's not working, so I'm not really sure. I'm gonna comment out the things here to see, to remember if let's see. But basically here is going to, so this is the tier access class. So it gets the current directory, which I think is going to be ras in the beginning. And then it's going to loop over that directory, because it's while true here. It might be, but I don't think, because I step over this on the class that I copied everything to, and I saw that it is being able to get the files and folders from here. So I think it's unlikely that it might be there might be a problem here as well, but I know for sure there is a problem on the other one, because it is supposed to be at least showing the current level. And obviously later, once I fix this problem now, I'm going to create other subdirectories and put files just to see if it's gonna work. So basically test the functionality that I have there. Yeah, but here I think on this part it's gonna get all the directories and files for the current level, and then it puts them on this linked list here. Then on this other one, it's gonna loop over all of them, which is basically the total here. And then for each one, is going to call recursively here. Yeah, so this function here makes the dir access change to the directory that you pass here. So if this is true, then it means you are going over a folder, because I think that's the dir access. But I'm not 100% sure about this. Maybe it can go over files as well. It cannot go into subdir. So maybe here is looping over the directories, and then it's gonna loop over the files here. So once he loops over the directory, he creates another editor file system directory, links to the parents, which is the current b dir, and then it's gonna call recursively with the new one. So it's basically going traversing the directories. Then again, it's gonna backtrack, and then it's gonna push to the subdirs here of the current level. If it, the first time it inserts on the, I think it's a hash, maybe it's not a hash one. There's a vector, so it's gonna insert on the index in the beginning. It's kind of weird why it uses insert here and then it uses push back there, but whatever. And then here is gonna go over the files, and then it puts the information on here, and I think on the end there is gonna push. A bunch of these things I removed from the one that I'm doing because I think I'm not gonna need, which might be one of the problems because I might have removed something that was making it work. But I know for sure that I have to remove some things because for the stuff that I'm not really sure how it's gonna work later, but for the beginning, it's just gonna be like manipulating files. Like I think I'm just gonna get to the point where I can click on the file icon that I have there and open folder, and then I can change the current directory and display the files. Because I have to build other stuff to be able to think about like if I need something else more. And like I said before, I'm trying to keep everything as simple as possible. But at some point here is going to, so here is going to push the file to this. So it caches the files for the current levels on the editor file system directory in the files memory variable. And it caches the subdirectories on the subdir, I think. Yeah, the subdir. So each folder is gonna have the subdirs and the files of the current level, and is a linked list that connects them. And then the other class uses the root one to create the tree, which is the function that I was looking at there. So based on that, it's gonna create a tree item for each one using the create item, I think, or yeah, create item. So the beginning is the root that it creates on the update tree, and it cleans the update tree each time as well. So every time that it calls is like resetting the tree. Then here is gonna be the first child, which is the first subdirectory. Which I think the first subdirectory is the one that starts creating the tree. So the branch directory is gonna be created here as well. Yeah, so it should be the case. So this should run. The problem is that this runs a bunch of times, but there should be at least one time where it runs after the directory already started. Otherwise, it's not going to recurse. Oh, I fucked it up here. Okay. Let's try again. So I just want to make sure that it is that I'm thinking about it correctly. Because I think that there's also another difference is that the editor caches the files, and I removed the cache functionality because if I'm probably gonna have to cache the previous or the last folder that it was open, but I'm gonna do it obviously in a different place than the editor does it. So I'm gonna have to think about how to do this. I'm probably gonna use the config file because that's how I've seen people recommend. But I wanna finish this stuff first. And I have no idea how long it's gonna take because I don't know how hard it's gonna be. Like maybe I'm gonna have to change a bunch of things or make the class singleton like they did and then change like how I'm initializing everything. some music. So, hmm. That's probably something that I. Might create another function as well, but I'm not really sure if it's necessary. Maybe I should call scan there directly there instead of calling scan. Because it might be because of the thread. So the thread might fuck it up. Yeah, but here you can see now that it doesn't. So like the other thing I was thinking, I was trying to fix last time as well is the icon here. But it looks like it doesn't show the icon here. So I think it only shows the arrow once it has subdirectories. So that's probably why it's not showing on this one. So you can see that now it doesn't have anything here. So those two parts are the ones that are responsible for creating. Now I have to figure out why. Why it creates here, but it doesn't create. So the first thing I'm gonna try, so I'm gonna compile again to go back. And the first thing I'm gonna try to do is to call file system scan directly. Not scan, but the scan directory. So before I was doing here, then I started doing here, because I think that like it's not necessary, but they call this function here to update this display mode, and then update tree depends on the display mode. But on the constructor, this initializes as display tree only, which is the one that creates the files there. So I think it is not related to the other. It's probably related to the threads. Oh, this is the other thing that I studied yesterday, and it is like still not 100% sure on how, when it comes to the threads, how it works in relationship to other classes. But now I understand how this works. So basically, the standard unique lock is going to allow them to use this macro here. So after you put this macro on a thread, it initializes this thread, this mutex inside of the thread, and that should be mutable because it's going to be used on this one as well. So this allows this other thread here to use this one. So this is basically initializing a thread with this name here by passing this thing here as a inside of the constructor, and the explicit keyword forces the class to do this, so it stops you from being able to make it equal. Like if you're gonna do like this, and just stops you from doing that with the explicit keyword, which means that you have to initialize like this. And this is used to, so you're basically initializing this class here by passing the other mutex that is initialized on the class declaration. And this is going to call the lock for the other mutex. And because it's a unique lock, what happens is that it automatically locks the threads when the other one's being initialized, and is going to automatically unlock the threads when the function runs out of scope. So it runs the destructor of the class, which means that it unlocks the other mutex, because that's how a unique lock works. So that's basically why they are doing so, just for convenience. So when you initialize this, then whenever you have the thread safe methods on a method, it's just gonna lock the thread and unlock after the method executes, and also prevents deadlocking. So not sure if that's the reason as well, is because of deadlocks that you have recursive locks and normal locks, let's say. But yeah, I think that lock happens when one thread goes through a place and then it locks the thread, but then it never unlocks because of the branch. So depending on the control flow, it never unlocks the thread, which means that all threads are gonna stop they're gonna be waiting forever for the other lecture unlock. So yeah, this is just convenient. But the thing that I'm not 100% sure is whether or not by them assigning here, all the other classes that they're gonna run are gonna use that. If the other classes use this thread safe methods, if they're if it's gonna be relevant to this class here, if it uses this one, or if it's gonna use the one from the class. But I assume that they're probably gonna use the one from the class here, from the highest derived, let's say, class. But it might have something to do with this the other thread class that they call there. So the one that they initialize in the beginning after you call scan. So this is just gonna use a normal std thread from C++, which you initialize by passing a callback there. When you initialize the thread, I think it's like passing a task, which is the callback function, which is the function that is going to run on multiple threads. So it might have something to do with this, but I think it probably doesn't, because there's but I guess it depends on this class here. So it's probably going to be this one, the one that is actually being used when you have the threads enabled. The other one is just to stop it from, to be able to compile. That's because of the macros that they have there. Yeah, so the start is the one that they call in the beginning, and that's going to initialize the thread callback. So this is going to be this pointer, function pointer here, probably. And then the user data is the argument. Just void pointer. But I'm pretty sure that this is just gonna call just gonna initialize the trans. Yeah, so it calls initialize std thread with the callback. So there's a function pointer from the class. So I pass the function pointer from the class, passes the ID of the tron, the settings, the callback function, and the data, which is the user. And that's the one that's the function is going to receive there, the one that is initialized on the scan. And so this is basically going to be the instance of the class, I think, which they're gonna use to run the scan system. But I don't think this thread has anything to do with the other one because it's just different variables. So I think it's for different purposes. But I guess what I'm gonna try to do now is to. So I was doing in three. So I was doing here, then I tried to do here. It doesn't work still. Don't remember why. Oh, the reason why I comment this out is because I didn't do the progress bar. So the progress bar, they're using some functions from editor node, and like they basically create a class that has a component that shows that bar that shows on the editor very fast whenever you do some change, just showing the progress. So because I didn't want to use that editor class, I'm not using that right now. And the problem is when you add a folder, it runs this function here, and this function is the one that is going to change what shows up on the FileSystemDock, which means that I can't see the folders because my progress bar never ends because I'm just initializing there to compile, but I'm not using any progress bar. So, and I think I'm not gonna use it because I don't see the points in the stuff that I'm doing. If I do use it, it's gonna be outside of the class or some other components. Yeah, so now the last place that I put this was here on the constructor. Because obviously, well, yeah, I just realized that I should do this, or maybe it doesn't matter actually. Yeah, I think it doesn't matter, but I'm still gonna put here now. Because this one is from this class, is basically gonna get the root directory, which is, the way that I'm doing now, the default one is gonna be the RAS directory, which is just the. But I'm gonna change this after I figure this other stuff out. The other one is on this rescan function that gets called some places. So I think I'm gonna try to call the other thing directly to see if it works. So it runs this one. This is the thread that is gonna pass a callback. Then it's gonna receive the instance of the class. This might be the issue. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's kind of unlikely because I only have one instance that I'm initializing on the FileSystemDock, but maybe it runs a bunch of times. I'm not sure. So it's gonna run this stuff here. So I guess I have to run this one first. Because this is the first one that is gonna initialize. And the problem is that I can only run, or maybe not, actually. So initialize a new one. Yeah, initialize a new one and then passes there. So maybe it doesn't matter, actually. Because the one that matters is this one. So this one is gonna be the root directory that I have on the class declaration, which is the RAS. So it changes this directory. This might be another. So I had to change on one of the dialogues, the one to create a folder. I had to change the function that they use because if you use if you use access file system, I think it doesn't recognize the. If you use access file system and you pass the RAS special path, it breaks, I think, the function. So I have to use other function to figure out. So maybe this could be another issue. Yeah, I think that's, so it's exactly the same problem I had. So I'm gonna change there. Because this one is gonna get the wrong path, I think. So I have to use one that is gonna create the access. But this is the issue though, because like if I do it like this, then I was using this one. So this one receives the path, and the base on the path is gonna return whatever one is equivalent to that path. But the issue with this is that later on, if I want to change, then It's gonna break. But I guess I can just run again and then it wouldn't matter. But I'm gonna do this for now just to see if it works there. If it solves anything. Oh yeah, and you have to pass the path. So yeah, it's great for path. And then you pass the front here. So this is gonna create the resources, their access, and it's gonna change there. So maybe I should test this first. I'm gonna test one thing at a time. So this one is the one that is gonna create, is gonna update the states for the first time. I have to put DA. As their access. The other thing that's like, but I'm not really sure if it's worth to change. But maybe it's worth it if I don't find any like straightforward solutions. I can just change the way that I'm. Because one thing that it doesn't make a lot of sense is that it seems that it runs a bunch of times. It runs unnecessarily the update tree a bunch of times, and then I don't understand why. Because it makes more sense to me that you should only run once after the directory is initialized. But it might like there might be something to do with the singleton that I don't understand very well, like why they did it this way. I guess I was looking here. So this one, and there's also an fs scan, I think, on the editor node, which is the function that I was talking about before as well. That is a function that runs after on the somewhere along the export pipeline. And that's the one that has the message or the comment about hack solution or something. So they're connected, that one with the file system. But I think that probably runs it for the first time, the scan here. FS changed, so this is the function. It's actually to do this in. So this one has this stuff related to the export, and I think this one gets called after the file system doc or editor file system emits the signal that the file system was changed. Pretty sure that's how it works. Well, I think it makes sense because probably what is happening is on the export system is going to create the exports presets file, I think, on the roots of the project directory. So because it updates the directory, I think it runs the editor file system, and then it runs this this function here from the editor file system. I export presets config. That this is the one of the. So this file, I think it holds the configuration for the export preset. So when you create an export on the editor, it's going to create this file, and this file is going to have the states of the settings of the preset you have there. Just going to depend on the platform. So it's basically checking to see. So if it is no, if it is a no, then it means you have it, and then it's gonna call some stuff related to this. And it's gonna call, so it calls export preset here, export project. Okay, so it didn't do anything. So this is what happened last time as well. I think when you change something, then the default should initialize with the folder collapse. So I think after the first time you click there, it saves the setting. So this is basically the other thing that is kind of weird here is that when and this is the last thing that I was trying to figure out now, is when I right click here outside of the dialog, it doesn't remove the dialog. So I'm not really sure what is going on with this because here it does remove. When I right click here, when you right click outside, it removes. Also, when you left click is removing. So I think I tested the other one, but not this one. So this one is also not working, but I think it's probably because I didn't put the functional, or maybe it is working actually. Also, it is working, just laggy. I think here. So the stuff is working, it's just not showing. See if I do this, what happens? There might be something related to the, like it might be the, but not really sure if that would make sense. I think that's, maybe it is related because there is a true, like, because they are accessing the folder and I'm accessing the folder as well. Something like that going on, but I think it's probably something else, the issue. I think it's only connected on this one with the other one because it probably triggers the scanning on this one. Yeah, so when I reorder there, it's not doing anything. Just when you add a file. This next thing that I'm gonna test is if I use the, I'm gonna put on all the places first, but I think it's probably not gonna change. So I'm gonna have to go over with the debugger and spend more time trying to figure out what is going on. This is what I'm talking about here. Like I think that calling update tree here doesn't make a lot of sense. It's just calling with. Also, the other thing that I tried to do was to, because right now they are not binding these methods on ClassDB, which I thought that it might be a problem, but I think it's unlikely because it's already, when they go over with the debugger, it is calling the functions. So I don't think it's necessary to bind them. But when I try to bind, it's also, you can't bind because the arguments of some of the functions are not, they're not compatible with the variant class. And the variant class is the class that they use to translate the types, and so like just save things. You want to be able to emit signals and stuff like that. So because it uses vector of strings, it's not easy to. I'm trying to use vector variants to see if it's gonna work, but then I got another issue there. So I'm gonna avoid doing that because my if I have to do that, then I'm probably gonna have to rethink about all the functions that are connected with the ones that use types that are not supported on the variant. Because adding the types to the variant class is very annoying, so I want to avoid doing this. Oh, this is another thing that I didn't see here. Let me see if it's calling this. So I'm gonna remove this stuff related to favorites here. But it's probably not related to this. I'm gonna remove the first one because I don't have favorites there. Well, these ones I think I'm gonna leave here because this is related to the other functions that I didn't transfer yet, which are the dragging functions. So as far as I understand, you use the macro there on the constructor to pass through different classes, and then the macro sets up data on the control class. That's probably the dictionary that's gonna be used here to get these values. Oh, there's another thing that's I'm not pretty sure. So I'm gonna see here. Because I think I did the wrong one, but maybe not. I think it's probably correct. It's basically the place I was getting an error from. I had to change on the dialog. So this is a line. I'm just gonna change there. Scan file system. There's also the option to merge the two classes. So just pass the function that I think is necessary from the file system class to the file system doc. And then just call them on the same class. That might be better to do. Because like the main points of separating them, I think, would be if you want to use it for other purposes. I think that's probably the reason why they did it like this, because they're using both on the editor node and on the dock. But I'm not really sure if it makes sense for my situation to do it like this. Yeah, so it didn't work. So I'm gonna have to spend a bunch of time going over with the debugger. So I'm gonna try to go over the project directly. Also, there's error messages. Hmm. It's probably because I'm calling multiple times. So it's on error prints. So it must be this. Oh, if it checks to see if already has this. Yeah, so it has to create only once. But I don't think it's gonna. I'm gonna test to see if I remove the other ones, if it's gonna work. But I think probably not. It must be something else. So here was doing the scan and stuff. It's going to be annoying to figure out because it could be multiple different things. That's the problem. Like it could be something related to the editor nodes or something related to threads or whatever. And I assume that's probably something really stupid, so it's kind of frustrating. And that's why I'm thinking about maybe it's worth it to just extract the functionality from that. Because I'm pretty sure that the function that I said there in the beginning is the one that is gonna update the state. So I think those are the essential functions. The one that creates the state with all the subdirectories and all the levels on the file system. And then the other one that is the update tree that has to run after the class has the state. So I am thinking about like trying to simplify everything. Maybe I should move. I guess like, yeah, but the problem is like, what is the best way that I can test this without having to do too much refactoring? That's what I'm thinking about. So maybe I can, I can change just the file system doc and then just put the function, like just use this class directly on the file system doc. So I could initialize this one on the file system doc, for example, and then I can just transfer the only function that I think it matters to the file system doc, and then start from that point, see if it works, and then if it works, then I think about how to make it in the same way that they make here with the events. The confusing part is the threads. I'm pretty sure that it's gonna go over this spot here, this branch. I'm gonna put I think I can remove this stuff on my thing there because I don't have the progress bar. I'm gonna remove this thing here. It's whatever. So I should probably transfer this to the outside thing there. So I would have to do this on the process of the FileSystemDock. So I think that the way that it works is initialize the thread on the scan, and then it's gonna run this, which setting this process to false means that it's not gonna run the notification process for the node. So it runs this once. If it's not scanning and the thread is started, so it's gonna delete the roots. So this is probably when is like finishing. Not really sure how to put this, but the way to finish is gonna be the same. Forgot. I think yeah, it's join. So it's the join function on the thread, on the state thread. So it waits for the other threads. So it's basically joining the threads at the end. And so it calls that anyway there on the bottom. That's gonna be here. Yeah, so it calls join. So let's see this. Oh, basically have to remove these variables to the other class, and then just move the function. And the question is, why do they do it like this? That's what I wanna know. So, is this? I'm pretty sure this is only gonna be called outside of the class. Yeah. So it calls this both on the dock, I think, and on the editor nodes. So this one's gonna call the scan. It says basically each time there is a change on the directory, it calls this scan file, scan thing. I guess I need to look into one example of this situation. So I'm probably gonna put breakpoints there to see. And this is the function that's gonna set the progress bar. Because if the thread is started, it's just gonna return. So I don't know. Like how does that work? 'Cause in the beginning, it's gonna. I think that's the part that I said that I'm not really sure, but it probably calls the first time on the editor node, the scan. Then the first time it calls, it's gonna go over here, which is gonna start the thread and pass the function. So I assume that all the other times that it's gonna call is going to return based on the condition here. These other ones I'm not really sure, but I assume that it just flags to turn, just signal that it's scanning already. It should not run twice. But then how does it work? Because I think that's so probably after he starts on the thread. I guess this is the question. I'm pretty like I know that I'm not really sure if this one, but the other one runs every frame because of the breakpoints. But I'm not really sure how it works. I said it here is it turns on the process. The func sources, I think it runs. Maybe it is the thread func that runs every frame. And this one scans for changes. So it's basically these two functions that are the ones that matter. It's the changes in the scan new directory. So I guess the thing to understand is how is the thread going to determine when to stop calling the function. So I'm pretty sure that maybe it doesn't call this one every frame, but it calls the other one. Because if it's only starting the thread once on that function there, and then it doesn't matter the other times that it calls this, then how does it work? How does it make a call each frame? Guess after you set on the thread the callback, like the threads would, yeah, but I don't see how that makes sense. The mental model that I have there now is that you set the thread, then the thread's gonna do the work that it has to do, so run the function. Then after it runs the function, it's not gonna keep running the function on a loop forever. I think it just, but I'm not too sure how it works. If it's gonna sleep or whatever. So I'm gonna ask this, see if I can get any answers. Yeah, that's what makes more sense. So it wouldn't make so the only way to make sense of the only reason why you would be calling each frame is that there is other class calling a function that sets the thread every frame on the process, or the own process of the class calls the function. Yeah, so this function is the one that's gonna set. This doesn't matter that much. So I guess it's gonna run this after the tries is started. Because the beginning, this has should be a false thing. When it's not scanning, the initialization is gonna be false. So here's true. So it sets to true in the beginning and then sets to false after it scans the directory. Which makes sense. So after the first time, it's gonna turn off the process, delete the file system. But that doesn't make a lot of sense. As I should put a breakpoint here to say. So it runs one time, then it, like, why would delete the file system? It doesn't make sense. So, yeah. I'm not sure if I understand this part here. It seems that it's running this after, so the first time that it scans, so it's gonna start everything with the scan call, uh, scan function call. So once it does that, it's gonna set scanning to true in the beginning, probably because of the thread. So it prevents this from running on the process. And then after it calls the scanUdir function on the end there, it's gonna set the flag to false again, which means that this is gonna be true. So it creates the classes in the beginning and sets the state. But then this is the part that is weird because the thread is gonna be on the started state. So like this condition is gonna run. So if this condition runs for the first time after it scans, then why is deleting here? Because we're gonna need this class on the other class to traverse the directory. That's the part that's very confusing to me. There might be something related to this. The reason why, like, there might be a difference in the way that they are using. I think that most likely that's probably the problem. Is the way that they are calling the functions that are gonna initialize the directory in the first place, and that the relationship between that and the doc class, the FileSystemDock. But like, it makes me think that it makes me want to change everything because it feels kind of weird. It feels that something is off because it is very fragile. Like if the order in which you initialize things can break stuff, it feels that. But the thing is, I'm not 100% sure how to fix. That's the problem. I think like it seems that there's something wrong with the way that it is working, but it's not obvious at all how to go about changing the class to make it work. I guess the weird thing. So I think the difference that I'm thinking about is that you should do the first scan in the beginning, but obviously, like I assume that they have a reason for this, but I'm not really sure about it. 'Cause I think that it makes more sense, like to when you initialize the file system class, you already get the state. Like why would you wait? And then you would only scan whenever there is changes from the other classes. So it's like updating. So the initial state you get as soon as the class is initialized, and then after that you just update. Yeah, I think that's the reason why it's feeling kind of weird. But I think I have to try to solve first to see what is going on before trying to even change anything. And I have to spend more time to make sure that I understand what is going on before I try to change there. Pretty sure that this runs every frame as well. So maybe it's running the other function every frame because of this. Because I remember a long time ago, I was studying other stuff and I put a breakpoint here, I think. And then, so I think that this runs every time that, so let's say you minimize the window. When you unminimize, let's say, when you maximize again, it's gonna run this thing here. Or maybe it's when you uh, when you switch from different applications, then when you switch back, then it runs this stuff. So I think it changes, it calls this every time because of that. Also, this one is the one that, so I'm pretty sure that's what's going on. So do remember, so I'm gonna put a breakpoint here as well. I think that's the reason why the other function runs every frame, because it calls from the other classes each frame. So it starts a thread each frame because of that, and then it runs this, which runs the scan changes, I think. Yeah. It doesn't seem, yeah. Like it seems that I could change stuff. I'm thinking that maybe I should remove everything and just leave the other three functions. The other function that I think is important is the action one, because that's the one, like it's gonna be annoying to think about that again. And maybe everything that is related to the actions. Because I think that this is gonna be coupled with the other classes, obviously, because depending on what happened on the file system is going to change how it updates based on the other function. But those are the main functions. I think I already tested. So I'm gonna open here. It's probably not gonna have changed anything. And then I'm gonna go over with the debugger. Just see if I can. So I was gonna look for this one as well. So this is the one that pushes this to the message queue, which is a queue that loops over and then runs the callback functions on the notification, or no, on the process part of the iteration. Rather than changing anything. I'm still running this. Hmm. So I'm gonna go back to the way that I had there before. And it's kind of annoying, true. I'll move this down. The annoying part is the variables here because there's so many, like it's connected to so many places, so it's kind of hard to think about whether or not it's worth it to change. So I'm gonna go over once. I'll go over the debugger. As I'm going to put there. I'll leave here, even though it doesn't matter. So I'm gonna try to go over the project first. Project version that doesn't have the editor file system, probably. Just see what happens. Every time that the file system emits the signal, it's gonna call this true. It just calls this so many times. But the first one has to be correct because it's showing the root folder. The problem is the recursion there. It doesn't do. So this should be the first. This should be the root folder in the beginning. So on the update tree, it doesn't create anything. The one that actually creates the first item is gonna be this one, I think. So I think at this point it's creating the first item there. The problem is that it's gonna run multiple different times. So it's gonna recreate the tree multiple different times. And I think it doesn't matter. This is the issue, the reason why it's hard to know, because I don't think I'm gonna be able to figure out just by stepping over this. Because it has to be coming from somewhere else. Is a connection of these functions with the what happens outside of the classes. Let me step over this one just gonna start the thread. Maybe I should I should say on the editor nodes, should call that other function that scans the directory every frame as well. Just see what happens. So this one is gonna call this. Might be this thing about the pointer as well, like the instance of the class. It's kind of annoying to step over because of this thing. I think it shows the different threads. So if you press F10, it goes back and forth between the different places. I'm pretty sure I have a breakpoint here. So this is the parts. So it is showing the folder. Just the folder that I have there, and it's showing the files. Which makes me think that the problem is it shouldn't be on this class. And then it creates the sub there. Excellent processor. So this one doesn't find any subfolders and finds the files. Yeah. I wonder it's because I removed the functionality related to the imports. But I think like if it was a problem like that, it would probably be crashing. And you should at least show the other files that are not imports. So it's probably not that. The thing to see is the subdirs. I'm gonna have to press F5 though. So it is pushing to the subdir. Is that the subdirs are the thing that are gonna determine on the dock class whether or not it recurses on the crate tree? So the question is, what happens after? Hmm. So it didn't call crate tree, you know. So let me see. That's kind of weird. I guess the easiest thing to do is just call right away. So right after I scan, I should call the update tree to see what happens, regardless of what happens here. It's kind of weird with the threads there. On the other, so maybe I should. I think they use get uncollapsed path. Yeah. And what is the second argument? Collapse words. Yeah, so I'm gonna call this true as well. So what happens when I update right away? I'll be right back. Yeah, now hmm. So this would be, yeah, this is an issue. So I'm gonna put there on the enter tree again. Like the problem is this uncertainty about the trend. Because it wouldn't make sense to like what would be the point of using the thread if I put the if I call the wait for finish function on the other class to make sure that this runs before the update tree. Because then it would make a lot more sense to just call the function right away without any threads. Uh, I guess this is why I'm hesitant to change the class because I'm not really sure about the threads how it's gonna work because it's like it doesn't make a lot of sense to me the way that it is right now. Like it might make sense to use threads, but then like for two different options, let's say. So like in the beginning where when you are initializing everything. So I think first in the beginning when you are initializing probably should be on the constructor or something like that. And on the constructor of the file system class, you should run everything like get the initial state of the directory, I think. And then after that, then it makes sense to use threads, but only when you run the function to scan for changes. But the scan for changes as well, it doesn't make sense to have the other flags, I think. Because like the way that it is now, I think that's another reason why it's not making a lot of sense to me. But maybe I'm wrong, that's the thing, like it's kind of hard to say. Because it makes more sense to be a thing where it's based on signals or like after something happen after because in order for it to have a change, but actually maybe not. But if it is the other way, then it makes sense to run every time, I think, instead of having the flags to stop or to continue. So like the the reason why it might make sense to run the scan for changes or scan changes each time, each frame, is because there could be a change on the directory made outside of the application. So when you put the focus back, you should reflect, you should update that change. So for that reason, it might make sense to run the thing every frame. But then why make it based on the flag? So I think I have to clarify more because that's probably what I'm confused about. Is the condition there based on the flags on the process of the file system? Because I don't understand at one moment is going to be the condition is going to be true, which is going to set off the process. It's basically this condition here, this one, that is not very clear to me, and why they are deleting here. This this seems very strange to me. Because if this is the root, then it would make more sense to delete on the destructor, I think, of the class, and to stop the threads on the destructor as well instead of the process. Because, like I said, the only situations where I think is either you do it based on events, which means that you're only gonna scan the changes every time that there's an event, or you do it each frame regardless because you want to update. If something happens outside of the application, you want to update the file system whenever the focus is on the application again. So I don't understand why putting like this flag here to run one time. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The only reason why could be because of the threads. So because the threads is not deterministic. It is deterministic, but it's like unpredictable when it's gonna stop. Uh, when it's gonna get to this point. But I still think that even in that case, there should be something simpler, I think, to do here. So this, I think that this one makes sense. So based on the other function, it's gonna populate the scan actions here, and then so I think that this part makes a lot of sense to me. So they populate this stuff on the other function, and then they loop here, and then based on the switch, they decide how they're gonna change the state of the class that is gonna reflect there. And then they emit the signal based off that, and then the other classes can connect to the signal, and then they update their state based on the whatever happens here. With the other flags are kind of so this is what I was saying. So I think that it wouldn't make sense on the other class on the dock to put this condition here, like call this scan and then put this for the thread to finish. I think it shouldn't be something. Like maybe it would be better to run without the thread first. On the first time you run without the threads, and then only when you are going to scan for changes use the thread. So only on the threads function. But I guess this is the one that it is for that. So probably that's the reason why. Because I think that this one is for the other function, the other callback. Yeah, so I think it does make sense. But does it make sense to use a thread on the other one? I think the other one is the one that maybe it makes more sense to not do it with Tron. So the way that I'm thinking about it is like moving out so putting everything together on one function for the first time it's going to scan the directory. Then making that function without a thread so I can call synchronously on the other class. And then keeping this one as a thread because this one is for listening to changes. I was gonna see when does it, yeah, so that's basically the only one. So this function is gonna run after there's a change on the file system and updates the tray. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think I do have this function on the so this is another thing, is another hint, I think, of because when I add a new folder there is also not working. So when I add a new folder, it should emit the signal, which should make it run this thing here. It should update. So it might be something else, the issue. This is what I don't understand. Why it's not running the other parts though? Because I do have the breakpoint, I think. I do have the breakpoint here. So why does it stop running after it runs this one? Doesn't make sense. So the easiest thing to test is to put it on a different place. I guess on the constructors. The constructor is probably better because it runs before, I think. I think the order is the constructor, then notification under tree, and then notification ready for. But it's already supposed because this is already checking to see if it's scanning. So what is the easiest way to test this? Basically, what I need to see, like I need to force to scan and then wait. But I think this is gonna be false in the beginning. Also, this is another thing that I don't know how it works. Oh yeah, so it's gonna be false, that makes sense. Yeah, so the first time. So I'm gonna move this one to the constructor, which I don't think is gonna solve, but I wanna see on the debugger if it's gonna break. If it's gonna run through the, it's gonna break on the breakpoint that I have there. I'm gonna see if it stops here after it runs the scan for the first time. Like I don't understand why you call this here. Doesn't make sense. Because this cleans the tree every time. So what is the point of calling this? There's a point that there could be a situation where it already scanned the directory, so it's gonna create there. And it's probably why they have on multiple different places. But maybe that's the only place. But it does run a bunch of times. I guess it runs a bunch of times because the other functions need to run, but I think it probably does make sense. It should probably be working on the notification ready. At the point that runs there, it should probably uh, have scanned the directory, I think. But one thing, I think a simple thing that I can try as well is instead of creating the tree, I can just loop over the directories and see if I manually create, like what happens. I can put a breakpoint there, just copy the loop that they do without the reverse. Just simplify. Yeah, this is the thing that doesn't make sense. Maybe because of the instance. Because this is another thing, is like the way that I'm getting this from the other class. This might be another issue. I just realized now. It gets from this thing. But I guess it doesn't matter because it's probably always gonna get there. And it could be this actually. So I'm gonna put breakpoint here. So now let's see if it's gonna go there. So it's saying that it doesn't have anything. There's also a null pointer here. I think it is a null pointer. Yeah. So maybe it's because of the singleton. Like why is this returning a null pointer? I should initialize this in the beginning. I think it's because of this. Maybe it's on the thing about the process there that I was talking about. It's probably because of this thing here. So the easiest thing to do is should comment this out and see what happens. How does that? Because that shouldn't. I think just like changing the class from not being a singleton shouldn't change this. I think. So maybe it's not the problem. Yeah, but it looks like it is a no pointer there. Yeah, but if it is, that wouldn't make sense because it wouldn't be able to get. I think it's probably not a no pointer because then you would just crash. Yeah, it's just the. Hmm. So maybe this is the issue. So I'm passing the new. Let me see on their stuff. Because now I'm not really sure. Like maybe I'm creating, like it is creating correctly, but it's not creating on the one that is supposed to, which is this one. So when I return there, yeah, I think that this is a problem. I think I changed the name of this, but I didn't change on the other. So like the other function should return file system dir. Yeah, I think that this is the issue. Because I do remember that I changed the name here, because I think they use file system. Should specify the directory, and I changed to file system dir. It might be the issue, but maybe it's something else. Oh, it's new file system as well. So what is the function that gets the file system here? Oh, it's because they use another one. Oh, it is returning the file system. So what is the connection? Yeah, it has to be on the beginning there, I think. So the constructor is going to initialize. So I have to clarify the connection between the file system and the new file system there. I guess I can use this one to make it easier. But it is initializing there on here. So it's gonna return this one and pass this one should I create there now. But why is the other function using this one? So it makes it equal here. Hmm. How does that work? It has to make it equal in another place as well. That doesn't make any sense. Because otherwise you wouldn't work on the editor file system on the file system dock as well. And this doesn't make any sense, sure. If it is returning this one, then how does it work? Because it's not using this one on the function that creates the directories. Yeah, now I don't understand what's happening. Because the whole time I was thinking in my mind that like it was starting everything with this one. Because I do remember, and this was very confusing. As I was moving everything, I changed the name, so I changed on other places as well. But I still thought that it was returning this file system, or it was returning this one, because this is the one that creates the folder, and the one that they pass here. So how does that work? If they are returning the other one, then how does the other one have the So I can try to change and return the other one, but like it's not gonna. It makes more sense to try to change on the one that I have, the class that I have, to the name there, but it's still very confusing to me. Because they are getting from this. So editor file system, get file system. They're getting this file system. Because if this one is not the one used there, then it's never gonna have, it's not supposed to have any subdirectories. But I know for sure that it's gonna call here on the FileSystemDock. It's not calling on my class there, but it is calling on the FileSystemDock. So now I have no idea what's going on. So maybe we should put a breakpoint here again, or maybe a breakpoint here. So how does this work? I guess if I have to go over all of them to see. But I think it's not gonna have anything. Because the functions that matter already looked. Or maybe it could be wrong, going to the wrong place. Or it could be through a signal that it updates. So let me look for new file system. Because of the fact that I commented out there and it doesn't show, I know for a fact that has to be that function that creates the folders and files. So yeah, it has to be calling, it has to be getting the file system. So it has to be adding, maybe it does to the, hmm. There needs to be a connection between them. But unless it's done outside of the class, maybe. But that would be very weird. Oh, I understand. It's because it's pushing the subdirectories. No, but so maybe it is correct. No, but this one is gonna be the other one. This one is already the new one. So how does that work? I guess I have to step over and see if I can figure out that way. And the only time that it makes it equal is here. I guess, yeah. So it has to be here because what is confusing me is that when it makes this a null pointer, it doesn't change the value of this. I struggled with this since the beginning, but I'm pretty sure this is correct. Because here it's kind of confusing because file system is a pointer. So, but I'm not 100% sure about this either. I should see here. Should put a breakpoint. Because the way that I was thinking is that this pointer is going to be equal to this. So when you point this to no pointer, then yeah, but it's not how it works. Yeah, when you make this a no pointer, it's not going to change the value of this because the pointer is just a value, but it's a value of an address. So when you make this equal to this one becomes the address, and then it doesn't matter. Mm. So I'm gonna go over the editor version to see what is happening on the editor. The reason why it's doing that is so that like it creates using the new file system. Then I think it's so that it doesn't fuck up the older one every time that it updates. So after it updates, then it transfers the pointer. The question then is like, how does it work with the, like, I think pretty sure that this is the problem. It should be the problem. Like it's a timing issue. So I think that the reason why this is happening is because initializing the this I'm initializing the file system inside of the file system dock. So the timing is off. And by the time that this runs and it sets the file system, I guess one thing that I can try to see what happens is just change to new file system there. Instead of returning the file system, return the new file system. And then I see what happens. I'm gonna try that after. I'm gonna step over quickly here. Put a breakpoint on the other one, I think. The other ID. Yeah. I'll make sure it puts here as well. Let's just see when it's gonna call. So now the first time that I encounter the update tree there, I'm gonna see if it's getting the correct one. So it goes over here, deletes. And so this makes sense. I was confusing the pointer here, I think. So this one has subdirs. Yeah, it doesn't change. Yeah, this is something that I struggled since the beginning that I learned how to code. It's like when you change the value, because the way that I keep thinking about it is when I assign a pointer to another pointer, when I change the value of this one, it's gonna automatically change the value of this, but it's not this situation that changes, is only when you dereference the pointer, then you're gonna change the value that the other pointer is pointing to, because they're pointing to the same place in memory. So I think that's the reason why it's very confusing. Because when it does this, it just changes the address. So like it changes the value of this, but this is a pointer, so it's not gonna change this one. So now let's see here. Yeah, this one has the subdirectories. Yeah, now it goes over recursively. Yeah, so obviously it's an order thing. Hmm. And I know for sure because I wrote down there that it initializes the file system before it initializes the file system dock. So I think that this is what's going on. Also, like another interesting thing to the task is if I add as a child. Because this is another, yeah, I think that is not calling the notification because it's not a part of the, but I'm not really sure if it needs to be a part of the tree. I don't think it needs to be a part of the tree as long as it's a member of the other one. Actually, I'm not really sure about this either. So I'm gonna test to see. Maybe it has to be a part of the tree to call the notification. I think that's probably. So maybe on. So it could be the order, or it could be. I'm gonna see if I can. If I add as a child, what is gonna happen? If I can add as a child as well. I'm pretty sure I registered the class on class DB, so I think I can add as a child. Maybe that's the reason why. Because I think, and in order to call the notification, it probably has to be a part of the sync tree. So let's test this. So the other thing that I'm gonna test is if I change to use new file system on the class there, if it's gonna work. To return new file system instead of the. Yeah, this one, if I return the new one, what's gonna happen? So first I'm gonna see if this one works. So if it doesn't work on the editor, I'm gonna step over on the game version there. Then the next thing to try I'm gonna comment out or remove that child if it doesn't work. I'm gonna try to return the new file system there instead of the file system there. So I think it's working now. So it's probably working because, nice. It's working because now it's running the process and it's changing the pointer. Interesting. It does seem a lot bigger than the other one though. I guess. Yes. So I think it's probably correct now. Nice. No, there is more files here. So it is showing these import files as well. I think that's why. Uh, so let's So probably the level is off, I think. Actually not. I think that's the yeah, because I probably changed some it's easier to see. But I changed I think that's on the original class they don't show the files that have a dot. I guess I can open from here. Yeah, so they hide the files with a dot, I think. And on my thing there is showing. No, but it's so it's showing the files but not the folders. That's the difference, I think. So the amount of files is correct. So here they hide the import files and they hide the ones with a dots before. So I have to see how to show the files with the dots as well before. That should be, I'm pretty happy about this. But I'm gonna think about, so I'm gonna stop streaming now and I'm going to think more about if there is other ways to simplify this because it does feel very confusing there. Yeah, no, yeah, I think the main thing, like the thing is, I'm not really sure if it's worth it to spend a bunch of time to, or if it's better to just focus on the other stuff. The main thing that I might be worth it to do is to figure out what is the best way to couple the because that thing that I was talking about that I think it makes a lot more sense. It's like probably on the yeah, probably what I'm gonna do is call the scannew directory on the constructor of the file system class. As that way it runs for the first time as soon as the class is initialized. And probably on that, so probably I'm gonna do everything at the same. I'm probably the best thing to do is to create another function. So I create another function and I do the whole pipeline that they do on the function. So I initialize the new file system directory, call the other function that is gonna scan the directory and get the updated state and everything. Then I change the pointers, and then I finish the thread. Everything like on one thing. I think that's probably worth doing. And then I call this function on the constructor, and then that way I don't need to call the other class as soon as it starts. And I'm gonna think about whether or not it's worth it to. So like another thing, so I'm gonna see here right now. I assume that probably it is different when you are creating a singleton. Oh no, they do add as a child. So maybe I should leave it like this because it doesn't matter that much. Yeah, I think it's probably not worth it to remove the functions because then I'm gonna have to spend a bunch of time thinking about whether or not I'm going to mess up the stuff that is already here because of the flag variables. but it's probably worth it to create another function. So what I'm thinking about doing is like putting the same. So I create a new function, put this part here of the threads, and then I do everything on the same function already. Yeah, but I guess like this is gonna call this. So after I do this, I wait for the thread to finish. But then it doesn't make sense. So maybe I should call just, yeah, I call it without thread. So yeah, but that's, so yeah, I think it probably makes sense. Like just call once in the beginning on the constructor. So you call on the constructor of the class without the threads, the scan file system. Then you update, you, yeah, but then what would be the point? So I guess it wouldn't, I wouldn't even need this one. So maybe I'll remove this part from this function. I just put this part right away, and I do it directly with the file system instead of doing with this one. And then I leave this other function just to update the file system. So I guess this is another thing that I have to check to see if it's working. But I think it's likely that it is. But I didn't ask what happens because obviously I didn't know. And this is another problem. So it is like it works, but it is collapsing everything. So and I think it's probably because of the cache or something, or maybe it's because of the I removed some variable or some app. So let me think. How can I do this? Because I removed a lot of the member variables that some of the structs that they use have because I'm not gonna need it. So there's stuff related to the scripts and exports and imports. And I might have removed some. I guess I can just look to the collapse. Yeah, it's collapse. Let's update. Yeah, get collapsed paths. So metadata 0. This comes from the tree item. So the first variable of the tree item. So the meta should be the path. So I guess is this part here. So what is the difference? Oh, so it's probably here. Current path begins with file path. So it should be going over this condition. Actually, I think he's going over this one. I'm gonna put a breakpoint here and go over. But I'm not gonna do this now. I'm gonna stop streaming probably. So I think that's it. I hash is set outside of here, so it already passes the paths here. I'm probably gonna have to change this anyway, because I'm gonna have to see. Yeah, like I have to change, because I wanna have where it's gonna remember obviously which ones are. So it's probably gonna be on the metadata, because here it looks like they are doing base. It has to be based on the other function, but the other function is gonna be based on this one. Yeah, uncollapsed. Yeah, because it gets from the roots, so I have to change this. Well, first time it runs, it's not gonna return anything. Then after it gets the tree, so like how does it work? I should probably set collapse here. Maybe not. Yeah, set collapse. It is the one that I was looking at already. But I'm probably gonna have to change this. But I guess like this is probably related to the cache. So you just have to clarify first how it's related to the cache. So what I'm gonna do now is to figure out how to show the dots, the folders that start with a dot. I do remember seeing a comment or probably a comment on one of the functions that like they designed so that the stuff that starts with a dot doesn't show. So I need to find that place again and then just change the code. And after that, I'm gonna think about this. Either think about the saving, like how to cache the state, or how to connect this with this functionality here. I'm not really sure which one I'm gonna do first. Yeah, but basically because it's gonna be based on signals, so this one comes from the other one, and I'm probably gonna have to do it inside of the function. And in order to cache the signals, you can use a flag that the signals have to persist the signals across the sync on the sync file. So after I select a folder here, obviously what I want to happen is to replace the RAS folder with that folder. And also I have to see if it's still gonna work if I'm not using the RAS folder. And also I'm probably gonna have to change. So maybe I'll change first whenever it's using the RAS folder to show the path instead. Maybe maybe I don't do it with the RAS actually. Now that I think about it. So instead of doing like that, I should probably skip the root folder, so not show the root folder, and just show from the root folder. It's the same as it is here. I guess it shows the roots here, but in a different way. It's showing just the name of the folder. So probably replace the name of the RAS. replace this pattern with the last name of the path, which might be annoying because of the way that the dir access works there. So I'm not really sure which thing I'm gonna do first, but I'm gonna stop streaming now today. Let me show the signal thing that I talked about. The flag. So whenever you connect a signal, you can pass a flag at this flag here. And this took me a long time because I didn't realize, I didn't see that you could use another flag there. I think it's on the, yeah, so it's basically these flags here. So if you use this flag here, when you're connecting the signal, you pass there to the function, then it's going to write the signal connection on the sync file, which means it's going to persist. So you can connect the signals off on one time and then save to a sync file, and then when you open from the editor, it's going to remember because it has on the sync file the signal connection. And I didn't realize this, so I spent a bunch of time trying to solve this. But yeah, so probably what I'm gonna do is just try to connect the signal that the other class emits on the pop-up there with this FileSystemDock, and probably gonna have to create a function. Yeah, create a function just, or I'm gonna see if there is there is already a function there. So basically, after you select the folder here, it emits a signal. So on the function that creates the scene, I'm probably gonna connect this class that creates this and the FileSystemDock. So after I choose a folder, it emits the signal, and then there's a callback function on this one that is gonna probably just call the update tree. So do the whole thing again, like scan the directory. I pass a new directory. So I might have to create another function on the file system. So probably gonna do this another day. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna stream that, but probably. So see you then.